it's Courtney. Welcome back to Poppy and Gray. If you are new here, thanks for stopping by, and for my returning subscribers, I am so glad to be back on YouTube. It's been a minute. So I thought today that I would do some favorites from September, which I don't really have a whole lot. To be quite honest, September was pretty not great in terms of like my anxiety and whatnot. So yeah, I think I spent most of the month just kind of trying to deal. This scarf is like, I don't know what it's doing. So yeah, but I do have a few favorites from last month, and then I thought I would just do kind of a catch up on like what's going on with me, and why I really haven't been posting that much on YouTube or any of my other social media. So let's just dive into the favorites. My first favorite is this mug. So my husband and I took our son to Lake Michigan. I think it's been like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. It was after Labor Day. So that's another thing. Like, I've discovered that like post-season sort of beach vacations are my favorite because tourist season is over, so it's not super crowded. It's, mostly just locals and like a handful of tourists. We stayed in Grand Haven, um, which is new for us. We usually like we really like going to Lake Michigan. We live in Ohio, so it's not too far of a drive for us. And honestly, like the Great Lakes are just beautiful. So we used to go every year with when our older kids were younger, and we stayed in Saugatuck, which I believe is maybe 45 minutes away from Grand Haven. I'm not super sure about that. But if you are kind of in the Midwest and wanting like a beach vacation but don't want to go to the coasts, I highly recommend Lake Michigan. Grand Haven is great. Saugatuck is more like artsy. So it is sort of like boomers who went to like Woodstock and grew up and retired. Like they would go to a place like Saugatuck. So it's very artsy and kind of has like that like undercurrent of like counterculture kind of hippie atmosphere to it. Um, which is fine, and we really love it, and it's beautiful. Um, Grand Haven is much more, well, I like the beach better in Grand Haven, and it's much more like family oriented. So if you have, in terms of like, if you have like younger kids, I would definitely recommend Grand Haven. Rowan is 5. Um, so yeah, Grand Haven was much more our speed with him. There were lots of great places to eat. We went to, it's called the Village Baker for breakfast. The breakfast is phenomenal. And I got this mug there, which I have really been loving. So this is one of my favorites. It's like the perfect size to like hold in my hands. I don't know. I like my mugs to be shorter and wider. I don't know. I just feel like they fit in your hands better. So yeah, I've been loving this month. I also have been working in my Hobonichi a lot. So if you're new here, I will link some of my Hobonichi videos, or maybe my Hobonichi playlist, like in the iCard if you're interested in taking a look at. So in my daily pages of my Hobonichi, I use them for just like memory keeping or journaling or whatever I want to do. And I finally upgraded my watercolors. So I had been using just like a cheapy set. I think they were probably $5 from Michael's. Um, and yeah, I'd had various watercolors like on my Amazon wish list for a while now, and I got some money from my birthday in August, and so I bought, with some of that money, I bought two things off of my wish list. So one is this set of watercolors, which you can see I have really um, been enjoying and using and kind of trying to really get creative. I am not an artist by any stretch of like anyone's imagination, but I do love using them like in my Hobonichi. It came with like a really thin brush, and it also came with like a watercolor brush pen, which I had never tried, and I am like obsessed. I will try to like insert some pictures maybe of my Hobonichi so you can see see my very sad like brush lettering that I've been practicing with my watercolor brush pen. But I love, so this is kind of, I mean, these aren't like professional grade. I think they were probably around $20-ish. I'm not exactly sure. So, I mean, they're probably like student grade, but they are definitely a step up from like the cheapy, like Michael's everyday value, like $5 ones that I had been using. So, I really love these. I may get like a little, they have watercolors that come in like a little kind of travel size tin that you can pack with you, because I took this when we went on our vacation, and I mean, it didn't take up too much room, and I didn't really need to be so concerned about that because we were driving, so it's not like I had to worry about like trying to fit everything into a certain size bag. But it just would have been nice to have like, you know, just like one tin that was like, you know, this size. So that maybe I'll add that to my Christmas list. And then this book has also been on my wish list for a while. So it is called The Joy of Watercolor, 40 Happy Lessons for Painting the World Around You. And it is by Emma Block. And I am really, like, really enjoying it. So, I mean, she kind of takes you, like, through the basics of like the kinds of brushes and like mixing colors and creating a wash. So all of that is really helpful info in the beginning. And then there are, you know, lessons. So she like breaks them down into beginner. I have like tried this one, which was really easy. She does a great job of like breaking it down and showing you like step by step how to get. So that's a beginner lesson. I'm trying to see if I can find, like, this would be an advanced lesson. Obviously I haven't tackled any of that, but I have really enjoyed kind of stepping up my game. I love this one, like painting simple faces. So I really am looking forward to doing more with this book. I also want to just get like some watercolor paper, like a paper pad, and just practice. Mostly I use this in my Hobonichi because it has that glorious Tomoe River paper that just like crinkles, and I love it. So the other thing that I loved in August is I have a friend who lives in Virginia, and she, like, I had been talking for like a couple months about wanting to just learn more about teas and get more into teas. I mean, I'm not a fan of iced tea, but I do enjoy drinking tea, particularly in the fall and winter, but I don't really know like that much about it other than like, you know, the tea bags that I buy like at the grocery store or whatever. So she surprised me and sent me a care package um, with this mug. So I don't know if you can tell, but it has this really great like faux wood grain print on it. So she sent me this mug, and then this goes down into the mug so that you can steep your loose teas. And then she also sent me so many like samples of like loose tea packets. I don't know. She probably sent me like 40 or 50. So obviously I have not tried them all. God, this is bothering me. But these have been three of my favorites that I have tried. So the spiced autumn pear tea, I actually just drank this one yesterday, and it is so good and like perfect for fall. And I usually put a little bit of milk or cream in my tea and some honey. So this was really really good. Yesterday it was like a rainy, um, like overcast, cool day. We finally got some cool temperatures here in Ohio, and it was perfect to come home and, you know, while I was supposed to be doing things, I didn't. I made a cup of tea and sat on the couch and listened to music and like flipped through Pinterest. So that's how I spent my morning. So this one is really good. The creme brulee tea is just, oh my god, it's so, this one I added a little bit of creamer and some brown sugar, and it was so good. Oh my gosh. And then the warm bread pudding tea, which is also I did with milk and a little bit of brown sugar. So these are, I look forward to kind of lighting, making a fire in the fire. I'm sorry, my foot's falling asleep. Making a fire in the fireplace and making a cup of tea, and just like enjoying. So loving that. And then these are just two, so I think I said in my last favorites video, I have been getting more into makeup. I signed up for BoxyCharm last month, I think. I don't know. Anyway, this came in my BoxyCharm box, and it is the Becca Hydra Mist Set and Refresh powder. So it's like a translucent setting powder, and I'm not like, I don't really love powders because I feel like they just age me and like settle into kind of like the fine lines under my eyes, and I have kind of large pores, so don't really like to draw attention to this. But this gives my skin almost like an airbrush finish, and I am loving it. And it goes on, like it feels, yeah, like you've misted your face, and it's cool. Like it feels so good. And in the last, you know, like we were still, up until last week, I think it was like 95 degrees here, and it just felt so good. Because like usually for every day I don't really do that much with makeup, but I wear like a BB cream and like some concealer and like highlighter or something, and then I was putting this on to kind of set everything, and it just felt so good on my face. So I'm really enjoying this. And then the last thing that I purchased was, and I don't know if you can see, I'll try to like hold it up, but this necklace I purchased at Goodwill, and I am like obsessed with it. It was $1.50. So I love this like tassel, and it has rhinestones, and it's like the perfect length that like I can put it on like the shortest link, and it kind of hits me like right here, or I can make it a little bit longer and it's like the perfect length. So I've been wearing it like nonstop since I got it. Um, so yeah, that's it. Not too much in terms of like what I really loved in September. Oh, one thing, a show. If you're looking for a show to watch, I started and finished Mindhunter season 2 on Netflix. If you're into sort of that, like, you know, procedural, true crime, detective sort of thing, it was really, really good. And I liked season 1, but I really liked season 2, and it sort of follows the investigation. I was born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s. It sort of follows the investigation of the Atlanta child murders that happened in the 80s, and I that's something that I remember as like one of the sort of like seminal moments like in my childhood where you sort of realize that the world is scary. Because I remember like, you know, that summer, like the Atlanta child, like it was like the boogeyman, like you don't want to stay out because there's like you know, there's this person who's murdering black children, and it sort of took on this like mythical kind of thing. So it sort of goes into the background of that story, which really piqued my interest. I know that there's a podcast about the Atlanta child murders, but I had actually like given up listening to a lot of my true crime podcasts. I don't know, like I was had been really into My Favorite Murder, and there were things that happened like with both Karen and Georgia, and like the whole fandom that really turned me off of like true crime and like consuming crime as entertainment sort of thing. And so I had stopped listening to I still have basically stopped listening to those kinds of podcasts. So I don't know. I may go back and listen to that when I've heard good things about it. But yeah, so if that is sort of your thing, definitely check out season 2 of Mindhunters. So yeah, so the other thing, I just wanted to do kind of a quick life update. I know that I have been MIA in this space and basically on social media. Like, I haven't really been posting on my Instagram. I don't really, I mean, I have a Snapchat. I don't even know if I remember the login to it. That's not really my jam. Um, but um, yeah, I had sort of taken a break, not necessarily intended. Like I said, last month I struggled a lot with my anxiety, like a lot. I think it's probably like one of the most intense months I've had this year in terms of like coping with it. And there are a few things that, you know, triggered that, which I won't necessarily get into right now. Um, but so yeah, so I had been dealing like with my own anxiety. We also got our formal diagnosis for Rowan's autism. He had been, I mean, we've been like in therapies and trying to gather like all of the diagnosis for him since he was about 3. And last year we got a diagnosis that, while I agreed that those things were correct and those were things that we were seeing with him, I still kind of felt that there was something still that had not been addressed, like with that and with the treatments that we were in and the services that he was receiving. There were still things that I thought were not quite right with that diagnosis. So we went through more testing and all of that stuff. So yeah, we got an official diagnosis. I want to say it was in August. And so September last month, um, we are, in therapy, in doing therapies for that. And last month we sort of uh, increased the number of our appointments. So we just added more appointments to our calendar. So it was a little like intense with sort of managing, like getting him to school and to his appointments and like all of that. Which, and so all of that is very exhausting. And then I also have been thinking a while, and it was actually one of my goals at the beginning of the year was to investigate becoming like a doula and programs and like what I needed to do and what that career path would look like for me. And I have sort of mentioned it in a few videos that with Rowan, he was born early. It was an extremely traumatic, like birthing situation, labor, delivery, all of that. He was in the NICU. He was born at 33 weeks. Um, and there was a lot happening with me. So, uh, with that, I became really interested in, why the things that happened to me happened because no one could really tell me. And I may, as we get sort of further along, uh, make a video like about that entire situation. Um, so yeah, so I started, reading more about maternal death rates in the U.S., specifically maternal death rates for Black women in the U.S., which essentially rival some like underdeveloped countries. And in some states in the US, the maternal mortality rate for Black women is at 40%, over 40% in some places, in some states. And so that had sort of piqued my interest. And then um, when my granddaughter was born last year, my daughter and son-in-law asked me to be in the room with them when she was born. And so I got to be there as my daughter labored and, went into active labor and actually got to see my granddaughter come into the world. And that not only healed a lot of or started the healing of a lot of my own kind of trauma and PTSD that was associated with my birthing experience, but it definitely um, like set me on the course of doing birth work. So I had investigated a few programs, kind of seeing which one that I was interested in, and I came across a company called Bibo Mia, um, and they actually have like scholarships where they award scholarships to people who would like to become doulas. So I applied for one of the scholarships in July, I think it was. No, in August. Because they announced the winners on like September 10th. So I applied for the scholarship in August. I was not one of the ones who won a full scholarship. I did get a partial scholarship into the program. The program started in September. So, yeah, I am doing that. It is a 17-week program to become a doula. I am also doing the childbirth education program so that I can teach birthing classes as well. So just like getting my head into like a space where I am learning. There's lots of required reading. There's, you know, homework assignments. So just like getting myself back into the groove of being like a student again has been fairly intense for me. So managing, you know, things that I need to do around the house, um, being a mom, being a wife, and diving back into like a school program, an education program, certification, whatever you want to call it, has been really, you know, a struggle for me. So finding a good balance of my time has been kind of hard. So this is the third week of the program, and I think I'm kind of just now like hitting a groove where it all feels less overwhelming and more manageable. We'll see what happens like when the holidays hit. But yeah, that's kind of what my life is right now. Ideally, I would like to get up 2 videos a week here. We'll see how it goes. That's kind of what I have planned for the rest of the month and into November. But yeah, that's what is going on with me and kind of what I enjoyed last month and what I'm doing right now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button down below. Tap the notification bells if you want to know when my next videos will go up, and I will see you next time. Bye.